did not run a great campaign, and you're going to keep losing if you insist that she ran a great campaign.
I'm saying, look, there was no model for the campaign that she.
Donna Brazile is struggling to accept the election loss, likely stuck in denial. However, M has no patience for people who twist reality to suit their narrative. When Donna tried to spin her usual excuses, M utterly demolished her hypocrisy, and it was brutal. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's get straight to it and break it all down without wasting any time.
The big issue, right, was immigration. And
inflation, immigration.
Those two are very big issues. And you asked Vice President Harris, why did you let all these people in for the last 4 years? She did not have an answer. I still don't know the answer. They actually could, with an executive order, shut it down as they did earlier this year. So why did they not do it 3 years earlier? And I think people felt she did not respond to that in any way. She had no answer on inflation, and she also seemed to represent that whole woke zone that people are sick to death of. And I think those three.
Well, I agree with the first two, but I'm not going to get into this, oh, the people are too damn woke. That wasn't a...
Donna, it was a big issue whether you want to admit it or not. People were exhausted from the endless woke messaging, the alphabet soup of genders, kids being pushed into transitioning without parental consent, biological men bulldozing their way into women's sports. The list never ended. It was like we were all trapped under the weight of the woke brigade force-fed their propaganda, while they called us bigots for daring to question it. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, she barely mentioned the actual crisis that mattered to everyday Americans: inflation, silence, border chaos, crickets. Instead, it was all about equity and lived experiences. Newsflash: no one cares about your pronouns when they can't afford groceries. The people noticed, and they made sure their voices were heard. So you now understand when I say Donna is losing it. Well, Bill Maher sees it that way too.
I agree with you.
I know, and that's why you're going to keep losing. I mean,
On July 21st at 1:41 p.m. when Joe Biden announced that he was not going to, he was going to step down, Kamala Harris had to step up. Now, what other Democrat could have stepped up in that period of time?
We're not arguing about that.
All right.
We're arguing the campaign she ran. They asked her what she would do differently. She said, I can't think of anything. That's terrible.
How do we trust a party that was telling us with a straight face that Joe Biden could be president for 4 more years without any problem whatsoever? That's what the Democrats were telling us. It was a massive lie. We saw through it. Everyone saw through it.
Did you see him this week? Could you imagine if we were just starting on the next term?
The reason the Democrats lost the election, as Bill Maher perfectly pointed out, was the constant lying coming from the White House. It became painfully clear that Joe Biden was not fit to lead the most powerful nation on earth. The man literally wandered off in the middle of speeches, shook hands with invisible people, and needed cue cards just to remember basic tasks like sitting down. Despite this, figures like Donna Brazile continued gaslighting the public, insisting that Biden was capable of handling another term. The situation only got worse with Kamala Harris, who had no clear plan or vision. When asked what she'd do differently if given the chance to lead, she fumbled, dodged the question, and fell into one of her infamous word salad monologues. Voters saw right through this act. Kamala Harris wasn't just unprepared, she was painfully out of her depth. Every time she spoke, it felt like watching a high schooler try to BS their way through an oral exam. She would laugh awkwardly, ramble in circles, and somehow manage to say absolutely nothing in a full minute of talking. And let's not forget her infamous time as a passing of time, moments that left everyone questioning how she even made it this far. If this was the Democratic backup plan, it's no wonder voters ran for the hills. Their message simply resonated with no one. The saddest part, the media, the supposed watchdogs, were complicit. They buried negative stories and edited interviews to make Kamala Harris look good, but it was all a farce. Let me play you a clip of a recently leaked interview with Kamala Harris on CBS's *60 Minutes*, where she performed so poorly that they had to edit parts out to save her campaign. Watch what made it to air and listen to what Kamala really said.
That we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles. Well, let's start with this. On this subject, the aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles. that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And I think that is the most recent example of why what we do to assist in their defense around military aid is important. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Now, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire.
We actually understood what Kamala Harris said in the unedited version. Please enlighten me, because I'm completely lost. Seriously, was that even English? CBS had to edit her response just to make it sound halfway coherent. They literally cut out the embarrassing rambling and stitched together the least ridiculous parts, hoping no one would notice. And this is who the woke mob was trying to force on us. A VP who needs a professional editing team just to sound competent. They told us she was a historic leader, a brilliant mind, but the moment you remove the media safety net, all you get is word salads and nervous laughter. No wonder the American people weren't buying it. It's almost like they thought we wouldn't notice. But no amount of editing can hide the fact that Kamala Harris struggles to form a single coherent thought under pressure. Imagine needing an entire PR team just to answer basic questions. How is that leadership? The media propped her up, and the woke crowd demanded we praise her, but when it came time to actually lead, she fell flat on her face. If you think what you just saw was a fluke, here's another shocker from former Vice President Kamala Harris.
I'm not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end. The work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. And we're not going to stop doing that. We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Honestly, it's almost impressive how Donna Brazile can blame the election loss on everything except Kamala Harris. For crying out loud, Harris was vice president for 4 whole years, yet she still sounded completely clueless when asked about U.S. foreign policy toward Israel. That wasn't a trick question or a gotcha moment. It was basic, fundamental knowledge she should have mastered by now. And what did we get? Another rambling, incoherent answer that left everyone wondering if she even knew what she was talking about. This is exactly why they lost. Biden had clearly lost touch with reality, and his so-called successor had no idea what she was doing. The American people saw the disaster unfolding in real time and said, no thanks. But instead of owning up to their mistakes, the Democrats doubled down, pretending everything was fine. They gaslit the public, insisting Harris was a strong leader when she couldn't even put together a competent response to a simple question. Voters weren't fooled. They saw the incompetence, the lack of direction, and the sheer embarrassment of it all. When Election Day came, they made it clear America wasn't signing up for 4 more years of this circus.
CBS's perspective, Jack, they clearly made a calculus over here, and I'm not sure it was fully thought through or it's coming to fruition the way they thought, because I don't think they actually changed anybody's minds in terms of the coherence or succinctness of Kamala Harris as a communicator. She had been well established as somebody who was prone to rambling. This term word salad has become a phrase that everybody's familiar with her.
As we mentioned earlier, the media played a huge role in this deception, desperately trying to push Kamala Harris onto the American people. But guess what? It didn't work. No amount of media spin could convince voters that she was competent when every unedited clip told a completely different story. Instead of holding her accountable, the media covered for her, edited out her gaps, and acted like everything was fine. The problem was, voters saw right through the charade. No amount of media manipulation could mask the fact that Harris was unprepared, uninspiring, and completely out of her depth. The election results proved it. This is exactly what Bill Maher was warning Donna Brazile about when he said that whitewashing Kamala Harris was a losing strategy. If the Democrats refuse to face reality, they'll continue to lose elections. Maher didn't hold back, ripping into the media for their blatant bias. He called out their shameless attempts to shield Harris from scrutiny, pointing out that their job was supposed to be reporting the truth, not running PR for an administration that couldn't even handle basic questions. The media's failure to hold Harris accountable only fueled the disconnect with voters.
Appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden.
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course, you don't
but
follow
I'm
this.
saying
You
know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true.
After Bill Maher's explosive obliteration of Kamala Harris, social media was flooded with praise for the comedian. One person wrote, "I respect that Maher is willing to state the truth. The truth is known by all honest Americans." Another chimed in, "Bill Maher peeking around the corner of reality slowly." Others took aim at the Democrats for their big charade. One commenter said, "Why not? If they can keep a dementia patient going as president for 4 years, why would anyone think they wouldn't script, edit, polish, etc. the interview to high heavens?" She speaks like someone who was given a 500-word essay assignment and is trying to fill up the other 475 words. Another added, "If the Democrats want any chance of winning the next election, they need to do some serious house cleaning, and fast. That means taking a hard look at their failed policies, their out-of-touch messaging, and yes, their leadership. If that house cleaning includes replacing Kamala Harris, so be it." Honestly, I think she's a political dead end. There is zero path forward with Harris at the helm. Voters have made it clear they're tired of leaders who can't lead, and Harris has proven time and time again that she's all talk and no substance. If the Democrats keep pushing her as their future, they're in for another rude awakening. Here's Bill Maher's closing remarks.
Media tried to tell us was a competent and visionary leader, an orator. Yes, it's Kamala time.
For those rights to be maintained, which means we have to be vigilant, and it's just the nature of it.
Oh, I'm not sure if that's Kamala time or happy hour. The former Veep appears to be unburdened by sobriety.
Bottom line is simple. The Democrats lost because they refused to face reality. They propped up a president who had lost touch with the world and a VP who couldn't form a coherent sentence without media intervention. Instead of addressing their issues, they doubled down on deception, gaslighting voters, editing interviews, and pretending Kamala Harris was a competent leader. But the people saw through it. Bill Maher was right. Whitewashing Harris is a losing strategy. If the Democrats don't clean house and rethink their leadership, they'll keep losing elections. America rejected the circus, and now it's up to the Democrats to decide what's next. Will they double down on failure, or will they make real changes? That's the big question. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed our commentary, hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Don't forget to share it with your anti-woke friends so we can fight wokeness together. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.